My name is Helena Shorter. I'm 36, youngest daughter of a family where silence is a form of dismissal and money is just the first test you pass to earn relevance. I wasn't born to be noticed. I was born to fill in the space left after the real heirs were groomed. So I made my own empire quietly. One with sea glass windows, gold thread linens, and contracts that bite harder than any inheritance ever could. My family owns towers. I own control. Tonight, I was working my own floor, blending in as the director of operations at Black Tide Resort, the crown jewel of Destin's coast. My staff called me Miss Short. My guests called me nothing. I stood by the mirrored wall in the ballroom, clipboard in hand, dressed in a regulation black utility dress, hair pulled tight. The music was low jazz, the lighting golden soft. Perfect. Controlled. Then came the bride. Delilah Parent floated in like she owned the ocean. Skin-tight gown, sharp eyes, and a smirk that made the air feel expensive. Grant Schaefer, my ex, followed behind her like a bored investor at a startup launch party. The man never walked, he arrived. He didn't see me. He never does. I was adjusting the floral arrangement by the head table when Delilah barked. "Is that one of the staff eating?" Her voice sliced through the clinking of silverware. Heads turned. She was pointing at me. "I was doing a taste check," I said calm. Delilah marched over. 1 stiletto step. 2. 3. She plucked the appetizer plate from my hands and smiled like someone who had never had to earn anything. "Staff eat in the kitchen." Laughter scattered like broken glass. I nodded, said nothing, just turned and walked. I didn't go to the kitchen. I went to the basement. Service corridor. Cold tile. Buzzing lights. That was where I exhaled. Where my mask cracked. Not from embarrassment. From fury. My phone buzzed. Internal alert. Legal ops. Urgent. Schaefer Holdings LLC filed updated asset disclosure. Black Tide Resort listed as active holding. What? I read it twice. No. No. Grant couldn't own Black Tide. I built it from nothing after he left me with debt and silence. He didn't even know I existed anymore. At least, that's what I thought. But this wasn't a mistake. This was an ambush. I tapped into the resort's legal backend from my encrypted app. Sure enough, a corporate shell, Shoreframe Capital, had filed a lien 2 days ago. Hidden in paperwork, wrapped in jargon. But it was there. He was trying to take the building out from under me. No one steals what I bled for. I stepped back into the service hall. Inez, the head chef, saw my face and didn't ask. "You okay, Miss Short?" "No," I said. I walked past the line kitchen. My heels clicked sharp. Past linen storage. Past the server lounge. Into the archive room. Everything was silent except my pulse. I unlocked the cabinet. Pulled the hard copy of the Schaefer event contract. Clause 4B. Event use type, corporate gala. Bullshit. This was a wedding. He booked it under a corporate pretense. To pay a lower rate. To bypass the real terms. And by doing that, he'd violated my policy. Deliberate misrepresentation. Which meant I could end this. Legally. Now. But I couldn't act yet. Not without fallout. If I terminated too early, he'd play victim. He'd claim I sabotaged him out of spite. That's what these men do. Twist the narrative before the truth catches up. I returned to the ballroom, through the far wing. Observed from behind the bar. Delilah was berating the pastry chef over the cake tiers. Grant was whispering to a man in a slate-gray suit, his lawyer? His fixer? There's a rule I learned from watching The Powerful. They only play fair when they're already winning. I opened a new folder on my encrypted phone. Project Black Tide. Inside, timestamps. Violations. Guest footage. 1 step too far. That's all I needed. Behind me, one of the junior servers dropped a tray. Delilah whipped around. "If I see another mistake, I'll sue the hotel," she said, loud enough for the whole table. That's when I knew they'd give me what I needed. They'd hand me the weapon with their own manicured fingers. They thought I was staff. That mistake was about to cost them everything. The staff hall smelled like steel and citrus cleaner. I moved fast, heels hitting the tile in a rhythm too sharp to be confused with indecision. Through the narrow hallway, servers passed with trays, their eyes dipping when they saw me. Inez met mine. She always knew when something was wrong. I didn't nod. I didn't need to. Inside the secure room, the walls were lined with locked filing drawers. One key. My key. Drawer B4. I slid it open. Pulled the hard copy. Grant's signature looked rushed, lazy. Almost arrogant. Like the pen was beneath him. Sure frame capital. Corporate gala. Clause 3.2. Venue use type. Violation confirmed. The room felt colder. Or maybe that was just my body remembering how betrayal hits. Fast, invasive, and silent like a knife under the ribs. He hadn't stumbled into my world. He'd carved a way back in. And this time he wanted the building. My fingers curled tight over the paper. Not yet. Too soon and I become the headline. X sabotages wedding. He'd be the victim. Delilah would sell it in press interviews with those crocodile tears she keeps on standby. I stepped out, past laundry, kitchen. The air smelled of lemon rind and heat lamps. My phone vibrated. Noah, check camera logs. North Wing, 10:47 a.m. Something's off. I didn't respond, just turned and walked toward the security room. The monitor wall glowed blue in the dark. Noah sat with arms crossed, eyes tracking me as I entered. He tapped the screen. Someone accessed the camera feed this morning. Not staff, not IT. Used a burner credential. We got 3 minutes of footage deleted. What camera? Guest corridor. Near the executive suite. Delilah's room. I leaned in. What's the timestamp? Exactly when the planner brought the final delivery checklist to her. That's when she had the master event timeline. And Noah looked at me. She asked to verify owner credentials for emergency insurance coverage. You weren't listed, but someone scanned your old signature. The pen. The goddamn pen I left in reception last week. Grant knew I wouldn't show my name. He baited the trap. I stood still. My heart wasn't racing. It was sinking with something deeper. The sound your mind makes right before you choose violence. There's always someone watching, Noah muttered. Even when you think you buried the past deep enough. Maybe the past didn't die, I said. Maybe it signed the guest list. I walked out fast. The ballroom swelled with noise. Music returned. Glasses clinked. But something in the atmosphere had turned, like sugar starting to burn. At the head table, Delilah posed with a ring so large it should have come with a seatbelt. Grant stood beside her, holding court with 3 men in identical navy suits. One of them was Caldwell Pike, my family's attorney. He shouldn't be here. I pulled him aside near the bar. What are you doing on property? He smiled like we were at brunch. Lovely venue. I was invited by the groom. Grant doesn't know you're my counsel of record. Caldwell shrugged. He didn't ask. I didn't volunteer. That's not an answer. It's a legal gray zone, Helena. My voice dropped. There are no gray zones with me. He sipped his drink. If you blow this up too early, it looks personal. If you wait and let him make the mistake, it's policy. I hated how right he sounded. I hated more that I couldn't tell if he was helping me or helping himself. Be careful, Caldwell, I said. Snakes bite their handlers too. He raised his glass like a farewell. I walked back toward the ballroom entrance, body cutting through noise like a needle through silk. Mariah, my pastry chef, was being scolded by Delilah for the frosting being too ivory. You mean cream? No, Delilah snapped. Cream has warmth. I want cold ivory. Sharp. Elegant. Not provincial. Mariah didn't answer. She turned to me, eyes low. Do we serve the cake, Miss Short? I looked at the towering confection. 5 layers of French meringue, pearl-dusted, hand-painted sugar blooms. No, I said. Put it back in the freezer, on ice, like her manners. I turned and walked out. Ballroom lights glared too hot. The band missed a cue. The tempo slipped. Chaos always starts small. One off-key note, one lie in the paperwork, one server tripping over a veil. It builds. I climbed the back stairs, entered my office, closed the blinds. The building's digital nerve center sat before me. Climate control, security, lighting, guest profiles. I pulled up the contract, scanned to clause 14B. Event subject to termination upon misrepresentation, harassment, or violation of use classification. They gave me the weapon. Now I just had to wait for them to swing it. I didn't need revenge. I needed them to cross one more line. By 7:41 p.m., the ballroom was at capacity. Every table was filled. Champagne flowed like tap water. Guests dipped shrimp into truffle foam and debated real estate prices over noise-canceling string quartets. From the mezzanine, I watched it all. This wasn't a wedding. It was a power show, a showcase of who still mattered and who didn't. And I was the invisible stagehand. A flash of movement below Delilah. She was whispering to the planner. Lips pursed, fingers sharp in the air. Within seconds, the planner rushed to the front of house, flustered. I turned. Noah was behind me. She just ordered the orchestra to switch sets. Without clearance. What's the replacement? Custom mix. Not licensed. Get audio to stop it. Noah paused. That's not the only thing. Caldwell just left the ballroom. He's heading upstairs. I moved. 2 floors down. West wing. Caldwell was by the executive suite. The door opened. He stepped back. Someone came out. Not staff. Not a guest. Nolan Cray. Grant's fixer. PR strategist. And one of the most careful manipulators in New York. He looked me in the eye like he'd been waiting. I didn't blink. I see you've upgraded since the courthouse, Nolan said, voice low. Still using that broken moral compass. Still wearing that smug face like it belongs to you. He smiled slow. Helena, everything has a spin. Even the truth. I don't spin. I document. He walked past me, but his eyes said, You're already too late. Back to the suite. Caldwell followed me in. He dropped his professional tone. You don't get to pretend anymore. You work for me, I said. No, he replied. I work for whoever plays the long game. Right now, that's Schaefer. Silence. He tossed something onto the bed. A file. My name. A copy of my signature. One I hadn't used in years. You forged it. No, he said. You left enough samples behind. We just repurposed. I should have hit him. I didn't. Instead, I picked up the file, flipped to the last page. It wasn't just the event contract. It was an amendment, signed and time-stamped. It made Black Tide part of a trust asset realignment. Legal ownership, pending transfer. They weren't just mocking me with this wedding. They were trying to erase me from my own property. Why? I asked. Caldwell leaned in. Because Grant doesn't care about you, but he does care about control. And this resort? It's leverage, visibility, legacy. He needs that more than he ever needed you. My hands trembled. Not from shock. From restraint. He left. I didn't move. People like him don't conquer. They infect. You give them an inch, they rewrite the deed. The lights outside the suite buzzed low. I turned back to the window. Below, the cake was being wheeled out. Delilah posed. Guests clapped. A waiter tripped. Frosting smeared across the marble. A ripple of awkwardness. I watched Delilah's smile flicker. She turned to the crowd, grabbed a mic from the DJ. Her voice blasted across the ballroom. We want to thank everyone for being here at this amazing venue, generously sponsored by Schaefer Holdings. And, fun fact, this hotel's former owner used to be very close to my fiancé. She even used to live here when she was broke and irrelevant. Laughter. The mic screeched. I stood still. No one looked up. No one expected retribution. They thought I would do nothing. That I was nothing. Fine. Let them laugh now. Because I had something they didn't. The trigger. I reached for my phone. One tap. Protocol level 1. Breach violation initiated. The ballroom lights dimmed. Music cut. Air conditioning stopped. Champagne stopped fizzing mid-pour. Staff moved silently. Guests murmured. Looked around. Delilah froze. Grant stood. I walked to the mezzanine edge. Looked down. The crowd parted. Eyes rose. I didn't smile. Didn't flinch. Grant stepped forward. Face pale. "Where are you going?" he shouted. I pointed down. "To the ballroom," I said. "I own this hotel, and I just canceled your reception. You have 15 minutes to vacate." The room didn't erupt right away. That's the thing people get wrong about power shifts. They think it's loud, explosive. It isn't. It's a vacuum. Music gone. Air dead. 100 conversations collapsing into one sharp inhale. Grant stared up at me from the ballroom floor. His mouth opened. Closed. He looked confused, like a man whose GPS had just rerouted him into the ocean. "Helena," he said finally. Not loud. Not kind. Calculating. I didn't answer. I turned and walked. Cut. Service stairs. 2 at a time. My pulse stayed steady. I'd already made the decision. Everything after that was logistics. The courtyard doors opened into humid night air and gas lantern light. Palms rustled. Somewhere beyond the hedge, the gulf breathed like an animal too big to see. Security was already there. Noah. 2 guards. Calm faces. Hands visible. Grant burst through the doors seconds later. Tuxedo jacket off. Tie loose, eyes burning. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he snapped. "You can't just shut down a private event. I'll sue you into." "I know," I said. "You've always believed lawsuits are a substitute for leverage." He flinched. Just a twitch. Delilah followed, heels in one hand, mascara beginning to fracture. Phones were already up behind her. Guests leaking into the courtyard, drawn by the scent of scandal. "This is harassment," she shrieked. "This woman is unhinged. She's staff. Fire her." I turned to face her for the first time. Up close, she smelled like expensive citrus and panic. "You took a plate from my hand," I said. "You humiliated my team. You misrepresented the nature of this event. And you did it all on camera." Grant laughed. "Too fast. Too loud. She's bluffing." "No," Noah said quietly. He stepped forward, handed Grant a tablet. Footage rolled. Delilah snapping. Grant laughing. The planner whispering. The forged classification on the contract. Timestamps. Metadata. Audio. Grant watched his own face harden on screen. I spoke over it. "You booked this venue as a corporate gala. That lowered your rate and bypassed personal event liability clauses. Federal tax code doesn't love that. Neither does state fraud law." Grant looked up. "You don't have standing." I nodded once. "I do." I handed him the folder. Black cover. Gold seal. Black Tide Resort. Owner record. His eyes scanned. Froze. My name. Filed. Recorded. 3 years ago. Clean chain of title. LLC firewall intact. No lien. No trust. No amendment that held up under scrutiny. The silence after that felt surgical. Delilah's voice cracked. You own this?" "Yes." She turned on Grant. "You said this place was yours." "I said I had an interest," he snapped back. I watched them implode and thought of something my mother used to say, back when she still bothered to lecture me. People don't panic when they lose money. They panic when they lose the story they were telling themselves. Grant recovered first. He always did. "This is personal," he said, lowering his voice. "You're doing this because of us." "No," I said. "I'm doing this because you broke the rules." Rules are flexible. Consequences aren't. He leaned closer. "You really want this on your hands?" Viral footage. Guests dragged out. Investors watching. I met his eyes. "Authority isn't proven by how softly you speak," I said. "It's proven by what still happens after you stop asking." Phones were everywhere now. A woman in blue sequins was live streaming. A man whispered, "Holy shit," like a prayer. Delilah lunged forward. "Turn the lights back on. Now." She shoved a server. That was the line. Noah moved instantly. The guard stepped in. "Hands up. Calm. Contained." "Ma'am," Noah said, "you need to step back." She screamed. "Hi, animal." I looked at Grant. "Your event is terminated under Clause 14B, abuse of staff, misrepresentation, material breach." He shook his head. "You're bluffing." I tapped my phone. Cut. Inside, the ballroom doors disengaged to magnetic hold. Fire code compliant. Exit only. Another tap. Valet suspended. Keys rerouted to front desk. No departures without escort. Another. Local PD notified. Disturbance. Private property. Trespass imminent. Grant's face drained. "You planned this." I didn't deny it. "People like you mistake access for immunity," I said. "You forget buildings have owners." Red and blue lights flickered against the hedge. Delilah started to cry. Real this time. Grant swallowed. "Helena, we can fix this." I stepped back. "You wanted the owner," I said. "You're looking at her." I turned toward the doors. "And now," I added, "this reception is over." The reception was over. But the war wasn't. Grant and Delilah were escorted out, along with a dozen high-profile guests who looked too stunned to even process what had just happened. Their limos idled in silence by the curb. No music, no fanfare, just red eyes, sore egos, and crushed illusions. But I knew men like Grant. They didn't lose quietly. He'd come back with lawyers, press, smoke and mirrors. And worse, leverage. I didn't wait. By 9:04 p.m., I was in the operations hub, hidden behind the spa entrance, 3 doors down from the eucalyptus steam room no one ever used. Noah followed. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. I dropped my fingerprint on the scanner. The vault unlocked. Inside, surveillance feeds, contract archives, signed permits, and most importantly, the master audit trail. I pulled up the week's internal logs. Staff badges, keycard entries, remote access timestamps, wireless network anomalies. Then I found it. 7:32 p.m. Unauthorized admin login. Device ID not registered. Grant didn't hack me. He used someone inside. Betrayal never comes from enemies. It comes from the ones who know the alarm code. "Cross-check it," I said. Noah typed fast. "Match found. Caldwell." It hit like ice down my spine. He'd used his tablet. While guests laughed and drank upstairs, he logged into the Black Tide secure console, entered sequence, and uploaded a legal amendment. A document that claimed majority ownership had been transferred, predated, under court arbitration. It was garbage, but it only had to last 24 hours. Just long enough to shake confidence, confuse the banks, force an injunction, and worse, make me look unstable, retaliatory. Legal strategy through chaos. "Send this to AMC," I said. Noah hesitated. "Helena, you know what happens if this escalates." "I am counting on it." Because AMC wasn't just a law firm. They were asset monitors, crisis handlers, licensed by the Department of Justice to oversee cases involving corporate fraud. If I handed them this, they'd be forced to open a file. And when they did, They'd find the shell company, the offshore filings, the quiet trust in the Caymans in Delilah's mother's name, and the Judge Ivan Fairchild, who handled the phantom ownership dispute, was on record last year taking donations from Schaefer Energy, Grant's family business. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was conspiracy. And the second I exposed it, they'd try to bury me with it. Sometimes you don't pick the fight. Sometimes the fight picks you because you're the only one who knows where the bodies are buried. Noah looked at me. You want me to file? Yes. He nodded, typed fast. The moment he hit send, I knew everything changed. Cut. 10:17 p.m. The call came from Nolan. I didn't answer. He texted instead. You should have walked away. It's not just Grant anymore. Then came the second ping. Screenshot of a federal investigation form, filed 40 minutes earlier, accusing me, Helena Shorter, of financial misconduct and fraudulent retention of public land assets. A fake claim, but filed to a real agency. That meant headlines, scrutiny, freezing orders, maybe even jail time if they could twist it hard enough. I stared at the screen. Nolan was good. He always played 5 moves ahead. Set traps. Let you walk into them. The best lies are 90% truth. Just enough to keep the smoke thick and the fire off camera. I turned to Noah. They're playing fast. What do we do? I breathed once. Then again. Speed kills. So we go faster. He stared. You want to escalate? No, I said. I want to go nuclear. I grabbed the secondary phone. Unlocked the hidden contact. Investigator Mason, DOJ Financial Crimes Division. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. Not since he offered to protect me if I ever needed to bring something above the courtroom. I hit call. The line rang once. Shorter, he answered, cold. It's active, I said. I have the trail. I have the forgery. I have motive and media lined up. He was silent a beat. What do you want from me? Backup, I said. And a subpoena. Pause. I'll need you on record. I'm ready. Because the only thing more dangerous than a lie gone public was the truth no one saw coming. The rain came without warning. Cold drops fell in the courtyard, turning panic into slick urgency. Emergency lights bounced off glass and satin. The ballroom doors remained sealed behind us, a cage for those who wished they'd never crossed me. I stood by the fountain. Water splashed in slow motion, like a heartbeat stretched too wide. Outside, headlights cut the dark. Police cars, press vans, cameras already rolling. It was a carnival of scrutiny. Grant and Delilah were huddled at the curb, wet, defeated, helpless. Their entourage a scattering of silent suits and ruined couture. They looked like characters in a tragic play no one wanted a ticket for. A siren flared close. Mason arrived. He didn't smile. No triumphant handshake. Just a nod. He carried a folder thick with federal subpoenas, sworn affidavits, and foreign asset freezes. This is real, he said, voice steady but low. You gave them every chance to comply. They chose chaos. Law runs when law is needed, I said. Not when it's convenient. He looked at me for a long beat. You okay with this fallout? I breathed in. The scent of wet jasmine. Cold pavement. Sirens. This isn't fallout, I said. It's accountability. Behind us, cameras panned. A crowd gathered at the police line. Someone streamed live. The world was watching. A reporter said into a mic, voice gritty. Tonight, the owner of Black Tide Resort halted a high-profile wedding in dramatic fashion, citing legal breach and mistreatment of staff. That was only part of it, because the story wasn't just about a wedding. It was about how people define worth, how some believe entitlement is immunity, how laughter can become evidence. I glanced at Grant. His eyes were hollow, less rage, more disbelief. A man used to conviction, without consequence. now face to face with both. Delilah's eyes were red. Mascara smeared like battle paint meant to hide weakness, but only revealed it. A woman from the live stream pointed her camera straight at us. She said, loud and breathless, she did this. She stopped everything. She owns the place. And look, people are finally listening. I felt a shift, like tension peeling off my spine, like someone turned the lights up on a stage I didn't realize I'd been trapped in so long. I took one step forward, two, and then I spoke not as an owner, not as a protector of contracts, but as someone who'd lived her entire life being overlooked. Sometimes the hardest battles are not fought with fists or fame, I said, voice clear. They're fought with truth and persistence. And the world notices those who stand when others fall silent. A woman in the crowd cried out, "Show us what accountability looks like." That wasn't for the cameras. It was for every member of my staff who'd ever been ignored. For every girl in my family who was told she wasn't enough. For every quiet person forced to stay silent. I looked back at Mason. "File the mandatory reports," I said. "Public docket. Full disclosure. No redactions." He didn't blink. "We will need statements," he said. I nodded. "I'll give them," I said. "All of them." Lights from phones lit the courtyard like stars fallen to earth. They captured the moment, not a collapse, but a revelation. There was no screaming now. Only focus. Eyes on the truth. Grant opened his mouth to argue. Delilah looked ready to flee. They didn't understand. The stakes here weren't their reputations. They were real people with real rights. The last camera shot caught my reflection in a rain-dappled puddle. I stood tall. No mask. No disguise. Just a woman who had earned her place, one storm at a time. And as the press pressed closer and the police began their work, I heard Mason say softly, "Your staff were right about you." I let it sink in. Not praise, just acknowledgement. I turned toward the resort entrance. Staff emerged, servers, chefs, security, housekeepers. Eyes tired but steady. Each one nodded at me, not as boss, but as equal. I stepped over the threshold, past the upswept palms now glistening in the rain, into a quiet, controlled lobby. A calm after the storm. A place I built. A legacy not given, but earned. Because in the end, I understood something my family never taught me. Strength isn't proving you're right. Strength is proving you deserve to stand when all the world doubted you. The doors closed behind me, and the cameras kept rolling.